amazing.
Of course we are. Where would men be without us? So we shake hands with the right hand because we've put down our weapons.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today, the Noongar Wadandi Mort. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
Scratch the surface and everyone has a story. Kaya, and welcome to the Wisdom of Women.
Today's guest is part of a worldwide movement that is over 100 years old and is the ultimate feminist organisation.
They have a motto, be prepared, and a secret handshake. Dr Brenda Hamlett joins us from the amazing Girl Guides.
Welcome along, Brenda. How fantastic to be delving into the Girl Guides. We're all very excited. Tell us a bit about your position. Where do you sit with it all?
Currently, I'm the region manager for the Southwest, so I'm responsible for the guides in Bunbury, Busselton, Capel, Boyetbrook, Bridgetown at the moment. And we'd love to have more, but...
I was just going to say, I think it's fascinating that it's probably an organisation that, because it is so historically being a part, that we kind of think, oh, the Girl Guides, are they still going on? Like how? Yes, and
that's most people's first question when I'm somewhere in uniform. Oh, there's still are Girl Guides, are they? Yes.
Yeah, they
There's
are. And
about 9 million across the world.
Oh, see, there you go.
Fantastic.
The Girl Guides are well and alive. Tell us a bit about some of the activities that you're still getting up to.
Well, this weekend we've got a group of girls from Bunbury who are hiking on the Bibbulmun. The leaders decided to get her qualification for leading an expedition. So she's being assessed by actually doing that, taking the girls out with their rucksacks and hopefully some fine weather and doing some work walking on the Bibbulmun. So they're quite young. Most of them are only 13, 14. So it won't be too strenuous. But that's how they're challenging themselves at the moment. Yes.
And I just love all the background for women, driven by women.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the whole beginnings of the guides.
Well, really, the original guides were a group of girls, youth, females, in 1910, who turned up at the first big scout rally that Baden-Powell held. So up till that point, the scouts had just been working from his book called Scouting for Boys, which gave them ideas for activities to do to develop bushcraft skills and
a boys' club.
A boys' club, very much so.
I love that.
And these girls, many of them were sisters of boys, and they'd seen the boys doing these things, and they wanted to do it too. So they turned up at this rally, and Baden-Powell was not very good at handling women. So they said, look, we want to be scouts as well. And he said, well, no, it's not really for you. But my sister, Agnes, is very keen for the girls to be involved. So he handed them over to her and they started the Girl Guides. So 1910 really was the birth of the movement, and it grew and grew and grew from there.
Grew under initially the discrimination of females not being allowed to participate.
Yeah,
why shouldn't we?
You can't tell a female we can't do something.
That's right.
We'll just go and do it better.
Yeah. So that was mostly that sort of teenage range, and then during the First World War they started the groups for the younger girls. Originally they were called Rosebuds, but I don't think they liked that name for very long, so because it's a bit pretty and so they became what we called Brownies.
Now you started very young.
Yeah, I started at 7 as a Brownie. Yes. And I never left.
Oh, I love this.
So good.
So it's clearly brought so much to your life.
Amazing. I've got jobs from it. I've had experiences from it that I would never have had otherwise. I mean, even just as a girl going camping, that wasn't something my parents ever did. But obviously it's a very key part of guiding. And when I was at uni, I was involved in a Scout and Guide club where we ran activities for local community. And then when I left uni, I actually got a position as a volunteer working in Sierra Leone for 2 years, and my job description was teach maths and open a guide unit.
For goodness
That was
sake.
it. That was me. So
And off you went.
and off I went. Yes. So I doubt that it's all still there, but I left with a guide unit, a Brownie unit, and a guide unit in the next town down the road, also established, and the Scouts reviving themselves in opposition. So
Is
yes,
that right?
in my 2 years, I felt, well, at least I've left a bit of a legacy there.
You did what they
Yeah.
asked you to do.
Is there a resurgence? Is there an interest, or do you find a membership
It
wanes?
in developed countries, it's probably on the wane.
Yeah.
But in developing countries, it's huge, and the numbers, if you look on in the World Association, the numbers are big in Africa, in Asia, in South America, because that's where there's a community need for something that girls can get involved with, and the big focus for them is on community service.
Yes.
So they're running things like reading programs for young children who can't get to school, or they're running services for women as well as for girls. But doing all sorts of things. It's amazing.
And really quite before their time as an
Oh,
organisation.
yes. There were guards in the First World War, and they did quite, I would imagine quite a lot of the women were in the suffrage movement as well. That was the sort of person who was attracted to doing those kind of activities. In the Second World War, we had women going off and doing refugee work, what we called Guide International Service, and quite a lot of West Australians were involved in that, and they went over and worked with the Red Cross in refugee camps and all of those sorts of things. We are apolitical, so we don't tend to get involved in those issues, but one of the latest directions that we're now taking is to work in the advocacy area. So our mission is to empower girls to be leaders in their communities. So it's to be part of your community and to be a strong girl, woman, speak up for issues, have the skills to speak up. Yes.
So the sense of really creating role models.
Yes. And the fact that we're totally run by women right the way through to the World Association level. Occasionally we might bring a bloke in who's got a bit of IT expertise or something, but we
love the way you
employ
say
them.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you see the role of women and the impact of Girl Guides? I mean, clearly there's been a lot of improvement for women in society. Do you find it strange, though, we're still here, still struggling for aspects of equality? How far have we come, do you think?
I think we've come a very long way, and I think we just need to ensure that people don't sit back and think it's all been done, because each time a new area opens up, you need to have people with the confidence and the skills to go into that new area. So STEM activities are now part of the program. So the other night we took the little guides, the 5 to 9-year-olds that we've got here in Bunbury, up to the observatory, and we used the telescopes, and we talked about the stars, and we also talked about the indigenous stories that go around the constellations. So we had that modern technology aspect in with the traditional background, which was a really nice mix.
That's such an incredible awareness of every aspect of culture and society and where we're going.
Yeah.
That's the ethos of Guides, isn't it?
Yes.
Respect.
That's right.
Respect is
That's
a
right.
big part of being a Brownie or a Guide.
Yeah. Respect each other, respect other people.
Respect yourself.
Yeah, and yourself. Yeah. So our program at the moment is based around what we colloquially refer to as the 3 Ps and me. So physical development, practical skill development, people development, relationships, but through the whole thing as a self development. So all of those areas contribute to your personal development as well.
I think the Girl Guides needs a complete pull right back into, I don't know,
Yeah.
more.
We'd love the numbers.
Honestly.
Our biggest problem is that we haven't got the leaders. So we could take girls, and a lot of places have got waiting lists, but we we can't find women who are available at the times, for example, that we run meetings. So that group of 5 to 9-year-olds meet 4:30 to 6. Well, for most women, if they're not working, they're doing family tea and all of those sorts of things. So we get mums occasionally who come along and help, but it's a big commitment to take on for more than a few months at a time.
Yeah.
So those of us who do it are still doing it.
Oh, and thank goodness you are.
Yeah. So I work with that group because we've only got one qualified leader, and our rules say we have to have 2 adults present.
Okay.
So I go and help them out every week as well as doing my manager
What
job.
days is that?
That's on a Wednesday. And then we've got this other group, the ones who are doing the Bibbleman, they meet on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
that's just in Bunbury.
okay, so the
Yeah.
young group and the older group.
Yeah, we've just actually got 3 girls who were in the younger group who've now graduated into the other group, which is great because it means they'll continue their involvement.
It's such a wonderful alternative as well, though. I mean, if you have a girl that maybe is not particularly interested in sport or other, interests like that, to place them the Girl Guides.
Yeah. And we've seen them grow. We've had a couple of girls come in at 5 who are just overwhelmed by it all. Within 12 months, they're leading a game or suggesting ideas for activities or taking leadership in a discussion, all of those things that 12 months previously you'd never have seen them doing. And it's also a time when they grow physically as well. So they go from they can't catch a ball to actually being skilled enough to go off and play netball or softball or whatever it is the sport activity they want to do, because they've had a comfortable environment to develop those skills.
Leading by example. We often have been talking here at the Wisdom of Women in the WOW about the amazing connection of women in sharing experiences and knowledge to really raise everyone to that next level. And I mean, the Girl Guide certainly is all about that. That's providing that environment that's safe.
Yes, that's safe, but safe place to talk and we've got a big, we developed in the wake of the Royal Commission, a very strong child-safe, child-friendly framework. We didn't actually have any history of problems. When the Royal Commission asked all the organisations to declare any cases in the past, there were none for Girl Guides that were reported.
That is phenomenal.
But the only problem was they listed us with the Scouts. So it said Scouts and Guides, and of course there was a considerable number, and we protested when we got listed separately because they were all Scouts.
And it taints
Yeah, it does. Yes. And people think we're the same organisation, of course, which we're not. Not anymore, anyway, not since 1910. We do things together. The Scouts have access, for example, to boating equipment, which we don't. So they're quite happy for our guides to go along and use their canoes and do sailing, those sorts of things. And we join with them on Anzac to do the vigil. So we do work together, but we are completely separate organisations.
I've read some wonderful stories about the Girl Guides and some of the work that they did, and there is a book called How the Guides Won the War.
Yes.
I find that fascinating as well. It is,
yeah, because that community service and we're here at home, the men have all gone, what can we do? And they did an amazing job. And there is another book which focuses on those girls. Did you read the bit about the girls in the school in China at Chefoo?
No.
Oh, so one of the stories was that there was a group of girls in a boarding school in China, mostly diplomats and businessmen's children. It was a boarding school. And they were captured by the Japanese during the war and put into a camp at Chefoo. And they carried on running their guide program through the camp. And there's a whole book about that particular story. It's actually a fictionalised version, because they take a couple of fictional characters, but the background to the story is
based on true
absolutely
events.
marvellous, about all the things that those leaders did to keep the morale up for the girls and the skills that they had, and how when the war finished they were all still there and all safe because of the way they'd been looked after. So that, yeah, amazing what guide leaders and the girls that they work with can do.
Yeah, well away from the concept of girl guides off selling their cookies.
Yes,
and
we
so
don't,
there's so much,
which we don't
more.
do anymore.
Oh, they were so
Don't do.
yummy.
They were
I
yummy.
loved them. I loved
We
them.
don't do biscuits
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh,
Fair enough. And
All right.
chocolates. There was chocolates too, wasn't there? Was that something else? I'm thinking. No, that's
The
hockey.
biscuits had chocolate on them.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
No, the size of the organisation and the order that we can order that we can put in means
Yeah.
that it's not economical for the
yeah.
companies
Okay.
to take us on, which is a real shame. So
yeah,
yes.
they were quite an iconic part, I
They
think, of
are,
Australian
yes,
history.
yes. But we're moving on. We're not. we're not
that's
just
right.
about biscuits anymore.
So this drives us into some new territory as well. What are some of the issues? What are some of the subjects now that Girl Guides is having to look at within the framework of how it operates? Because in society there's some, some big stuff all happening.
Yeah. Well, obviously financial issues. We're very lucky we get quite a bit of support within WA from Department for Communities, which helps us manage the organisation side of things and to run activities. For example, running an activity in Perth that girls from all over the state can go to, where we don't necessarily have our local expertise to do that. So they run archery days and canoeing days and things. The Child Safe, Child Friendly move that we've made now means that we are very explicit about the checks that are put on our volunteers. They'll have to working with children checks and police checks, and we have a very strong code of conduct which everyone's subscribed to, and anyone who helps with a unit, even as a volunteer for more than 5 times a year, goes through the full vetting process, so that we make sure that that's okay. Ratios for camps and things like that too. How many girls to an adult? If you're doing particular activities, obviously you need more adults than you would just for a normal meeting. Those sorts of things. We're looking at advocacy as an organisation as well. So speaking up to Parliament, speaking up to other organisations about what we can do. We've had a program called Free Being Me about body image and self-esteem, which we did in conjunction with Butterfly Foundation and Dove. And we also did a financial skills development, where mostly for the older girls, but how to budget, the difference between wants and needs in terms of what money you spend. So those sorts of life skill aspects that in this
so
day
valuable,
of
aren't they?
difficult financial times are going to be really valuable.
I'm sitting here thinking about, because I was a Brownie and a Girl Guide, and I am thinking now about the skills that I learned are actually a lot of them from being in the Brownies and the Guides, and some of the outdoor stuff, some of the cooking, some of the interpersonal relationships.
Yep.
And I remember being in, because I was a Brownie in Manjimup and a Brownie and a Girl Guide in Capel, and I remember being a mentor at 12, 13, coming into Bunbury to help over 3 or 4 days with some kids, and they were probably only 2 years younger than us. That we were there, and it was just fun.
Was that the day camps that they
I think it was.
Yeah.
And I remember.
Yeah, I remember doing those.
Yeah. And they were. I still remember them. And then I went to school with a few of the girls, because I went to Newton Moore. So a few of the girls that I'd mentored were there. They're like, "You mentored me. You're funny." And it was just fun, because we did songs, we played, we read books. We were just girls being girls.
Yeah.
And there was obviously in the days before any tech. So it was a bit different, but it was just really, really innocent fun,
Yep.
nice time. I had to leave the guides because we moved out of Capel, so I left the guides.
So you were with Dorothy West?
Yes, Mrs. West.
Oh, I love this.
Loved it.
Reminiscing.
It was so good. And her granddaughters, Jenny and Annie, were my friends, and we all used to go together. But then we'd do things on the weekends with Mrs. West's daughter, who was a vet, but she had a property and they had dams, and we'd build a raft in the rain. You know, things that I'd be like,
gets the
oh, I'm not
chance
going
to
to
do
do that.
that?
Yeah, we built a raft. It sank 7 times, but we're all out there trying to navigate this dam with the raft. And I remember being in their kitchen, and we'd be eating breakfast, and the horse would walk in, and it was just
Into the kitchen.
into the kitchen,
Those
or into the
memories.
shower.
Aren't they
Yeah,
great?
take it outside, and just learning to do different crafts. And it was all kind of back to just growth and fun, and a lot of it wasn't a lesson, it was just fun.
That's right.
And camps at Binning Up, we used to go to Binning Up
Yep,
for a camp
yep.
and learn to do spaghetti.
So
spaghetti.
so the motto.
Be
What?
prepared.
Be prepared. No,
yes.
I love that. There's a sign. Is there a hand
Yeah, there's
signal?
the 3 fingers for the 3 parts of the promise. And we don't do this anymore,
No,
but we
no,
do
I
it
was just
just
saying
to your
to Sid,
shoulder.
yeah.
So can you run us through the 3 parts of the promise?
Okay, so I promise that I will do my best to be true to myself and develop my beliefs. It's the first part. To serve my community and Australia and live by the guide law. And then there are 7 things in the guide law, and I can never remember the new ones because they've changed it so many times since I was a guide. When I was a guide, I had to promise to be pure in thought, word and deed, which was very difficult.
Stop it.
Yes.
Then they changed it to I only had to be self-controlled in what I think, say and do. That I could manage. But now it's about respect and friendliness and consideration and those sorts of more generic terms. And we say, as a guide, I will strive to these 7 points.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a special handshake.
Left hand.
Oh, I just love all this.
The idea is that it goes back to the military start, where you would put a shield on your left arm and you'd have your weapon in your right hand. And by making people shake hands with their left hand, they had to put down their shield, which showed trust.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we shake hands with the right hand because we've put down our weapons. What we did, what Baden-Powell said, well, if you put down your shield as well, then you're showing you're trusting the person that you're
Yes.
shaking hands with.
You're making yourself vulnerable.
Beautiful.
Oh, I
That's
love
right.
the background on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are still there.
Yeah.
They're universal. They're part of what we call the links of unity across all the countries that have Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. Yeah, there are still Girl Scouts who are not part of Boy Scouts. It depends on how guides started in those countries. So, for example, if you go to the Philippines, the guides were started by people from the US. And in the US, the lady that started the movement over there, Juliette Lowe, wanted her girls to be Girl Scouts because she was very friendly with Baden-Powell. Very friendly.
Is there a
with
story?
Baden-Powell.
There's a story behind that.
Right.
That's the tea.
There are a few stories.
See, the guides.
So
is
she
fun.
wanted them to be Girl Scouts. So where the movement has been developed with links to America, they've tended to become Girl Scouts. So a lot of the South American countries.
Yep.
But where it's grown out from England into Europe and then around the rest of the world, they're Girl Guides. So we're the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, or WACS. That's our umbrella body. And there's about 9 million at the moment. It's gone down. COVID's had a really big impact on membership in a lot of countries, especially ones where economically it's had an impact. So Guides has had to just accept that we'll try and rebuild again once things get back to normal.
Yeah, okay. And clearly that's the whole ethos, though, is that face-to-face, that
Yes.
connection. That's what drives
Yeah.
the whole
So
thing.
we ran online meetings because WA, we were really lucky. We only lost 1 term of meetings
That's good.
Oh, wow.
where we
that
had
is
to go
good.
online. Victoria, of course, had those long sessions.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they developed a lot of online materials, which we're now actually making use of, because there's all sorts of training materials that they put together that we can use to train people who live a bit more remotely. Actually sitting in on an online training tomorrow, national one.
And I suppose it makes sense, doesn't it, to embrace that technology when it can, in fact, be quite helpful in certain circumstances.
They're running these for leaders across the whole country. So the last one I sat in, there were people from Queensland, South Australia, Tassie, New South Wales, Victoria, and WA.
How good is that? So again, it just gets back to how the guides are still just so relevant.
Yep.
And in fact, in many ways, with increasing technology, and we find that people are connecting much more remotely, that probably in many ways Girl Guides is even more relevant in this day and age.
Well, we hope so. Yes, yes. I mean, ideally, you do as much as you can face to face. So we've always had guides by correspondence, what we called lone guides. And we had guides of the air, Brownies of the air, who worked through the Flying Doctor radio and the School of the Air systems. So we've always tried to cater for guides wherever they are, whatever means of communication that we've got. But at the moment, it's been a necessity, which we're now taking advantage of.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about, because we did ask in our questionnaire, messages or words that you think young ladies or women should hear at least once in their life. And I loved what you chose here.
Yes. I actually had those from... I had to go to a meeting with some readings. Generally, when we have our meetings, we start off with a useful thought. And I'd actually found a whole series of points about women and the position of women. And this particular meeting was also very close to Women's Day. So I had a whole screen of them, and we passed it round. So everybody read something rather than one person. And those two particularly stood out to me. So one was, we need women at all levels, including to the top, to change the dynamic, reshape the conversation, and to make sure women's voices are heard and heeded, not overlooked and ignored. And then Amy Schumer, who was not really my favourite comedian, but I am a woman with thoughts and questions and shit to say. I say if I'm beautiful. I say if I'm strong. You will not determine my story. I will.
How powerful is that?
I particularly like that one, but I didn't know what kind of audience you wanted.
Oh, no, we don't mind that at all,
Yeah.
And again, it just gets back to how the guides, no matter how much, I suppose, certain aspects of the organisation has changed over the years, it still remains to be about empowering women.
That's right. Yep. That's our mission, to empower. We used to be enable, and then we thought, no, it's not making it easy for them. We want to give them the strength, the inner strength to be able to do it for themselves.
I love that. I love that. It's what we should all be striving for in many ways, shouldn't we? Is there anything that we've missed here, Brenda? Look, I need to congratulate you on all the roles that you've taken over the years.
Yes.
And you are a doctor. And
yes, in maths education.
Yeah, a great area to be in.
Yeah, I loved it. I started off as a secondary teacher and then ended up as a teacher educator at ECU, teaching primary teachers how to teach maths and science, which was not easy.
One of those challenging roles, huh?
Yes, because most of them had such a negative attitude to maths. I was never any good at maths, but I'm going to be a primary teacher, so I have to learn it. I have to be able to do it. And so my thesis was about how do we develop their skills, because you have to tell them what they don't know without completely shattering their confidence as well. Yeah, okay. And so we tried to put together a program that would enable them to learn, find out what they were missing, learn how to do it, and feel confident at the end that they could go into a classroom and teach the children that maths is not frightening anymore.
Yeah. And do you think that stems back from their own understandings? We talk about like STEM, how women traditionally, or girls, have not really been, I suppose, funneled into or strongly encouraged to jump on board a lot of those.
That's right. I was lucky. I went to an all-girls high school in the UK, so there was never any thought that you don't do this because you're a girl or a boy, because we were all girls.
Yeah.
There weren't many of us doing STEM subjects, but that was okay. And when I got to uni, I was also lucky in that probably half the cohort I was with were girls. So I think I struck a time in history when it was starting to become quite possible for women to go through. So a lot of us that I went through uni with went into teaching. So we were there saying, you can do it. We've done it, you can do it. I applied for a job in the UK at one point. And when I went for the interview, and he said, right, well, what's your subject area? And I said, well, I'm a maths and science teacher. Oh, female maths teachers, valuable piece of real estate.
Oh, I love that.
Because even in boys' schools, they wanted women there so that they weren't just getting that image that only men do maths.
You need a plaque that says that. Pop that up on your wall.
Yes.
Valuable piece of real estate.
Yes. I don't want people building a house on me, though. Thank you.
No, not at all.
So your Order of Australia medal, is that correct? Or Order of Australia?
AM.
AM?
Yeah.
Was for your work with the guides?
Yes, work with youth. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's...
What an honour.
Yeah, it was.
If you can sum up, and I know it's always difficult when someone says, can you sum up in a few sentences, this amazing, experience you've had with the Girl Guides? Is there a few words, though, that come to mind with it all? Because clearly it's had such a huge impact.
Yeah.
It has been your life.
It's given me friendship. It's enabled me to learn skills to meet challenges. Things that I would never have dreamt of doing, I've taken on and gone, oh, I can do that. But most of all, I've had fun. I mean, I go to trainings with adult leaders and we have a ball. And they're people that we've got so much in common with, but also people that from backgrounds that I probably never have met in any other organisation. Teachers tend to stick with teachers. When I first came out to Australia, I was a single woman, sent to Bunbury, no idea where I was, arrived at Newton Moore. I got to Newton Moore on the Tuesday, I was teaching on the Wednesday. No sort of preparation. I'd only arrived on the Friday from the UK.
Oh, they threw you in.
Oh, my
And they
goodness.
threw you straight in.
And that was the 70s?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew then.
And one of the things I happened to say to someone who I knew had daughters, oh, are there any guides in Bunbury? Oh, yes, my daughter's unit needs a leader.
Oh.
Friday afternoon, Sunday was a big function, met all the other leaders, and on Monday I had a guide unit.
Oh.
I met this whole circle of people that I would never have met if I'd stayed just with the teacher, because so many teachers in the country just want to go back to Perth anyway. So there wasn't that sense of community and networks, and people I've met ever since have just been fantastic. Meeting all over the place, all over the world.
Yeah.
Asia Pacific, Australia. I've held national positions and international positions.
The things that you've learnt, being a guide.
Yeah.
And, first aid.
Yeah.
Things that we touch up as adults, you only do your first aid trainings, but there's things that I can remember having to do my first aid badge.
Yep.
That I still I'm visualising
Yep.
when I was having to do my assessment in someone's lounge room, and her daughter was in the background giving me little hints, because she was like 15 and I was 12 or 11 or something. She was going, yeah, I know it.
So Brenda, a guide right through. You'll be doing it when you're 110, do you think?
Well, we've got a couple over 100 in the Trefoil Guild.
Have you really?
Yes, yes.
This is so good.
Trefoil Guild. Trefoil Guild is for people who've been members either as girls or as leaders, who can't take on that any more responsibility or don't want to, have got other commitments, and it's more of a social organisation. But they also provide service. So they might do the catering for something, or they might provide speakers who've got skills for activities that we want to do. And so, yes, there's certainly truffle ladies in their hundreds.
Oh, I love that.
So it's amazing, yes.
It is amazing. Oh.
Women are amazing.
Of course we are.
Yeah.
Where would men be without us?
Wouldn't they have been born, would
Well,
they?
no, exactly.
That's the thing.
They seem to forget that.
They do. That's very true, Sean.
Oh, love it. We need to ask you about a very important part of Guide's history, very local here to Western Australia, the Great Yarn, Albert Facey. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, we were actually looking for evidence at one point that there'd been guides in Bunbury in 1915, and we couldn't find much. And then we read A Fortunate Life, and Facey in that mentions that in 1915, when he was at Gallipoli, he received a parcel from someone in Bunbury who was a girl guide who had made him some very useful, very well-fitting socks. And so he always remembered this particular parcel, and when he came back to Western Australia, he happened to meet a young lady who mentioned that she'd been a girl guide in Bunbury, and he said, "Oh, did you one of those people?" And it turned out she was the one who'd made the socks.
Oh, my God, I got goosebumps.
Yes, and he ended up marrying her. Her name was Evelyn Gibson, and her family donated a picture of Evelyn for us to hang in the guide hall as one of the original girl guides in Bunbury. And you saw the stage show that
Not
came
the stage
recently?
show. No, I did not.
It was brilliant. If you ever got a chance to see it, 3 people playing every role on a stage that they never left, with scenery that was just boxes and costumes that were just a hat or an apron, and they changed character completely each time they put another piece of clothing on. So you'd have a gentleman putting on an apron playing a woman, and a woman putting on a slouch hat and playing a man.
So this was the story of the
And it's the story of A Fortunate Life. Yeah.
That sounds
And
amazing.
Evelyn got her mention.
Is that
and
right?
the story of how he met her again after the war. Yeah. Yeah. So it was just a really special story for us in guides, but also obviously for Western Australia as well, and Facey's role in representing that whole generation of men and what they went through.
It's an incredible historical anecdote, and
Yes,
as you say,
yes.
points to so much of the Girl Guide's impact.
That's right.
And that one moment out on the front.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you so much for talking
very
with us
welcome.
today. And we love our quotes. So I was wondering if you have another one, maybe, because I know you shared one or two before. Maybe if another one, if you want to share.
Yeah. So this is from Margaret Thatcher. If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Yes, that is perfect.
Yeah.
And it just sums up everything we've talked about today.
Yeah. Get in there, do it. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Brenda, very
You're very
much
welcome.
once again. We really appreciate you coming in, having a chat to us today. The Girl Guides, if anyone has been affected by any of the topics discussed, please do visit our support links. And we have links for more show information and for you to subscribe, please.
And always remember,
Every day.
You are remarkable.